Hello, Beanie Beauties, being curious, those who accidentally hit on the live and are like, oh shit, what's this? People talking about beans. Gotta get out of here. Just kidding. I'm really happy to be here. Can't wait to see Sarah for the first time. Awesome lady. Decided to put her trust and health journey in the Bean Protocol. Went all in on it. And had a lot of good reasons why. I feel like the reason why is the big one. Having your why. Writing down your why. And getting really clear on it. That intention allows you to set, your dedication and start to work on the muscle of creating healthy habits around reaching your health goal. I know that I did not have a strong muscle in the healthy habit department. So when I found myself sick and fighting for my health, it was a new language and a new muscle that I had to build. Hey, I see you. I'm gonna see if I can grab you, Sarah. Let's see. There you are. I think I sent you an invite. Yes!
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Good to see you.
So good to see you. I'm digging your bangs right now. Big time.
Oh, thank you. They're relatively new.
When I had a baby, I cut my first child, I cut all my hair off. I literally had a boy cut.
Nice.
Yeah. I was like, nice.
I'm ready for something fresh and new, a whole new identity.
It felt like a postpartum move. I was like, I'm reinventing this me that is like, different than I've ever been.
Yeah.
How old is Alanis? Alanis, right?
She is 3 months now. She's so cute. Looking at her hands and her feet.
Marveling at those incredible little human body parts.
Yes.
Yeah.
One second. I'm going to turn the AC on in here because it's kind of hot, but I will.
Cool. Hello, everyone. Excited. Look at this cool little group coming out. Watch this chat.
Okay. I got it.
How is she doing? Are you getting any sleep?
Last night was her best night. I mean, she still has 2 feet. She does the 10:30 dream feed, and then last night she slept till 4 without any fussing. So that was pretty good. Yeah.
That's amazing. Are you sleeping well? Because what I found is they would be sleeping and I'd be awake.
Yeah, it depends. It's like when I have to get up, also to pump. So like I'm tired, so I'll fall asleep and sleep really heavy. But then also like last night she was sleeping really well, and I was like, well, she's not breathing, so I have the anxiety, like she's gone. But I do find that when I do sleep, it's like really deep because I have the lack of sleep.
Yeah, you're going into that deep restorative sleep as soon as possible. You're like, okay, must get into that deep restorative sleep. But the whole anxiety of like they're too quiet. Are they okay? Like that anxiety is real. That is real.
Yeah.
I remember once falling asleep on the bed, not remembering having put her down to sleep. Mm-hmm. She was sound asleep. I woke up in a start and I went sprinting looking for her. Like, where did I put her? Where did I put her? I was so tired and so exhausted that I didn't remember that like a normal human, I put her to sleep in her crib and she's actually sleeping there.
I have, like, I'll wake up and think that she's sleeping on me, and I'm like, she's slipping off the bed, like where? And I'm like, no, she's in her crib. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, it's a wild new parenting is a wild ride. no matter if it's 1 or 2 or whatever. I don't know what happens after 3 because I stopped at 2, but that first one, that is like a life just changed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
How are you finding the rhythm?
Good. I mean, I'm lucky that I'm working from home right now. So, and I'm taking it pretty easy. And like if I need to take a nap, then I take a nap. So I'm just like allowing that to happen. And you know, she's so cute. I love seeing her see the world, and it's great. It's good stuff.
Well, congratulations, Mama.
Thank you.
Growing that incredible human is no easy feat.
Yeah. I know.
No easy feat. Just the human body, man. Am I right?
I know.
Well, that was one of the things going through motherhood and seeing what my body could do was actually one of the, I haven't actually talked about this before because it's just hitting me now, but when I was sick and healing, it was one of the things that reminded me how amazing the human body is.
Yeah.
That you can go through this entire transformation, cellular transformation,
Yeah.
and then like kind of come back to normal after it.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Yeah. I was like, my body is amazing because I could go from being a human, like with different curves and shapes, to being an A-frame, and then to being like a kind of normal-ish human. Like, it was pretty wild. I was like, yeah, right, my body can do anything.
Yeah, I know.
So what brought you, how did you find the Beam Protocol?
I found the Beam Protocol like everyone on Lacey Phillips' podcast. But you know, it's funny that she had been talking about it for like at least a year before I was able to like absorb it, because I came from a place of like, I've tried it all. I've tried everything, like, and to the point that I was like, oh, I wish she would shut up about the Beam Protocol. But I'm so glad she didn't, because it was actually when I was like thinking about getting pregnant, I was like, I should really try to do something healthy. What am I going to do? Like, even though I had tried everything, nothing had worked in terms of my, you know, all the things that I wanted to heal. But I was really just thinking I should get in the best shape possible before I try to conceive. And I wasn't even thinking about healing anything. I was just thinking about, you know, getting into the great shape. And so then I was like, okay, why don't I listen to the episode with Karen Hurd? And then I immediately was like, oh, this could be really cool. And then I listened to the one with you, and I just started immediately. I then bought the PCOS, you know, what's it called? Like the online class from Karen's website, and started like right away, and had, it was like, I just went full in. That's how I found out about it.
Which I love about you. And Lacey is amazing. Her dedication to the process was also kind of like all in. Like once she and I had lunch and talked about it, she's like, oh, I need this. And I was like, yeah, you do. Like, yeah, definitely you do. And she started on it, and just her commitment was just unbending. She was just like, this is what I'm doing. And, you know, I want these results. I want to feel good. I want fertility. I want energy. I want these things. So how far back did your health imbalances go? Like, where did you start to notice that your body was not functioning the way you thought it should?
I had my first migraine when I was 11. I didn't even consider the fact that like my body was not in balance until, honestly, like talking to you and hearing about the Beam Protocol. Like, I was like, oh, I'm someone who gets migraines, and that's just what happens. And you know, with my experience with it, it always just what I had heard from doctors and whatever is just like, oh, you know, like that's what it is. That's your life, you know. It didn't ever occur to me that it was an imbalance that I could fix. I had tried diets before, and I still didn't think of it as like a balance that needed, I didn't think of it, the chemical aspect of it, which is why when I would listen to those episodes, they just made so much sense to me immediately. It's really fairly simple. And even though in Karen's classes, she goes really into the like science behind it, which I love. It's still, I can explain it to someone fairly easily without, talking about all the minutiae details that she does. But it just like clicked that this could really work. But that said, I also was still really, I came to you because I was really afraid that it wasn't going to work for me. And that, especially with migraines, because like I said, no one had ever said like, it can work for you. And I was very happy to do this testimonial, because one of the things that made me like have hope was I watched a woman who had migraines on your live, and I was like, really, it's working for her. And so yeah, I just hope that I can do the same, have the same sort of inspiration for someone who's like feeling like, no, there's no hope for migraines, because there really is. But yeah, so to return to your question, I started having migraines when I was 11, and then they just got progressively worse and worse, especially in the last 10 years. It became at least once a week to 3 times a week, and they would last for 3 days each one.
Wow.
And the other stuff that I had to, like the PCOS, I noticed immediately on when I was getting my periods. Like I didn't know what it was, but until like in my early 20s, I like Googled like what is going on with my periods, and it was like, oh, okay, it's that. And I masked the pain and the dysregularity with birth control pills for a really long time, and that actually like worked well for me in terms of managing the pain. And I was just like, great, this helps that. But obviously it's not what the body's, you shouldn't be having to take hormones to keep your body regular. So there was that. And then I also I had heartburn, and the heartburn was like the least of my complaints. So I barely even thought about it. It was just like, oh, I guess I'm noticing that like it just has gotten worse and worse and worse over many, many years. And I would just, take Tums a lot and not think about it. But yeah.
Yep. There's a lot of ways. Well, and also I feel like when we're younger, the quickest fix is the best fix, because it's the least, it's like we're always looking for the least amount of downtime, right?
Yeah.
Like, what's the least amount of downtime that affects my life the least? That's kind of like the go-to. In my 20s, for my horrible, painful periods, I didn't do well with hormones. So like they just made me like a lunatic. So I just ended up managing with Tylenol and Advil combos for the pain. And I would just pop those like Tic Tacs for a few days, and then like a week, and then be on my merry way. So did your migraines show up when you started getting your cycle? Is that where they?
I mean, I got my first period when I was 12. I don't know that now that I think about it though, I don't know when in the year I got my period, but like that was when I was 11. I remember it very well because I wasn't able to go to this like event that we were throwing, and I was very upset about it. And that was in spring, and my birthday's April. So like I was just about to turn 12, which is when I got my period. So I don't know, I can't remember if that was like exactly around the same time, but yeah. And again, I didn't even notice that it was like hormone related totally until doing this work.
And I think it's hard because what I remember as well, Karen really goes through the different types of migraines, right? The vascular, hormonal, you know, and dehydration and stress and like all of the different kind of like branches of what can happen. So you were on, I think that you had been on it for a good amount of time when we met. I think
Yeah.
you were on it for like 10 weeks.
Yeah, I had been on it, I think, something like that. Yeah, like 2.5 months. And I had just gotten a really bad migraine in the process of it, and so I was like, I want another, like, helping, you know, someone else to help and guide me through, because there was a lot of times that I had doubt that it was gonna happen. And I just got inspired to have a flood of information, basically, as much as possible, and have someone to help coach me through any doubts and tricks to do, you know. I know you told me if I felt a migraine coming on, then just eat beans every 20 minutes. And like the first time that I did that and it worked, I was like, what? You know, like, that's crazy. I was like, no way. Yeah.
And did you start to see, like, having done the course, having applied the principles, did you start seeing any kind of like little victories in that 10 weeks before we started?
Yeah. The victories came with things that I wasn't even looking out for. Like, immediately my heartburn went away pretty quickly. And I was like oh, I'm not taking Tums as much as I was. And I had more frequent and consistent BMs. Like, I used to, you know, go a couple days without that. And then it was just like, immediately that was happening. And I was like, that seems like it's a good thing. And then I also noticed that I didn't have any body odor, which I wasn't looking out for that, but I didn't think that I had bad body odor before. But then I noticed that, like, I really had I just had less of it. And so it was just like, that's crazy. Like, things that I just didn't consider to be a sign of anything. Just really, you know, they were coming through. And then with my periods, I pretty early on, I remember I used to have tender breasts when I ovulated, and then that went away. And then that actually went away a little bit later. Like, when I first started it, I actually, like, spotted mid-month. Like, I had a little bit of a weird period for the first month. But it was still, even though that was, like, weird and not right, it was just like, oh, this is doing something, you know, like, I can tell that this is trying to figure itself out. Whereas any other of the diets that I had done, I had there was nothing that I could track that I, you know, noticed that was any sort of improvement. And it was because a lot of it was always like, okay, well, let's try this for like 3 months and see where we're at, and then if it's not working, we'll tweak. And so it was just like, okay, I don't even know why I'm taking this many supplements. I don't know what they're for, and I'm just doing what someone told me to do. And why I'm not allowed to eat cauliflower. Like that, I'm thinking of the blood type diet that I did, that was like, I had to have an app to, like, see what I could and couldn't eat. And it was just also very confusing. Whereas this was, like, very straightforward and simple and made perfect sense.
I tried the Eat Right for Your Blood Type diet. Me and that diet didn't jive, but I tried it. You know, I was like, okay, this may, you know, I was like, okay, I'm an O positive or whatever, let's do this. So it's wonderful that you saw it as change and you didn't like, oh, I have spotting. So were you on medication for migraines and for PCOS at the time that you started? And at what point did you decide to wean off of them?
Yeah, so I was on the birth control for the PCOS, and then I was on a bunch of different stuff. It's like I can't even remember now, but for migraines to prevent them, I was on Treximit, and then I was on this shot. Oh God, I'm forgetting what it's called. It's been so long that I've been on it, but it's a monthly shot that you take, and that shot helped me more than any at preventing. Oh, sorry, Treximit is to relieve a migraine once you have it, but I was on. I'm forgetting the name of the drugs that I was on, but I was on a preventative for the migraines, and then this shot, which is also preventative for migraines, that helped the most out of any of the medications that I was on, but I still was getting them twice a month. And even with insurance, that shot cost $600 a month.
Wow.
Just crazy. So, and then I had tried, again, I'm totally forgetting the names of all the medications that I was on, but I tried, a bunch of different ones to see if it could help prevent. And, I didn't really see much results from that. And then I went off the birth control 2 months into the Bean protocol. And then I went off the shot and all the like preventative migraine stuff early, because I knew I wanted to conceive relatively soon, and I needed to get it all out of my system before I tried that. So I got off all that pretty like as soon as I started, and I was getting migraines still in the first couple months, and I had to hold on to that 3-month mark every time, being like, next 3 months it's going to be like better, it's going to be better. But it was a slow progression into things getting better. Like it would be like, oh, I went 2 weeks without a migraine, to like I went 2.5 weeks without a migraine, to 3 weeks without a migraine, and kind of like almost being like, is that real? Am I making that up? Or I can't. It's exactly what they said would happen, but I just don't believe. I can't. I'm not trusting. Like, am I placeboing this or something?
And by the way, the power of belief is valid. Like all of this placebo, the blind double placebo, blah, blah, blah. Like they do that because the power of belief is so powerful.
Yes.
Like, oh, hey, here's your migraine medication. It's really a sugar pill, but you don't know this. And even they don't know who's getting it and who's not, right? Somebody else does, the doctors don't. So then they watch this group who's like just getting a sugar pill, suddenly all their symptoms go away, and you're just like, there is something profound about the power of belief, right?
Yes.
So, and I think in order to do a protocol like this one, where there's nothing else out there that's promoting beans as a healthy lifestyle.
Yes.
It's like, I couldn't have picked a more like fringe protocol to work with.
Yeah.
I tried, but it really picked me. So I was like, okay, Karen, I'm going to join your army. I'm going to be a foot soldier here and like get this out there, because there's something to changing the dynamic of hormones in our body as a way to heal. And the soluble fiber is this incredible tool that isn't being utilized. And not only is it not being utilized, but it's being demonized. Like, this is crazy. Especially with all of the hundreds of women that I've been able to help. And the thousands, that Karen has been helping over the last 30 years, including myself. So this incredible whole food has this amazing capacity to help us heal. Is pretty amazing. But what you're saying is great awareness, because you're watching the weeks go by, and I remember talking to you and it's like, oh, it's been 2 weeks, oh, it's been 3 weeks, and watching that time just kind of stack and get further and further out, where your body continued to balance. Because if you're looking at the things that you were working on, I mean, allergies, acid reflux, PCOS, migraines, it had this certain sense of imbalance about it. A lot of it, I mean, the allergy part was interesting. I don't know, is that better as well, by the way? How's the allergies?
It is. it's kind of the last thing that's working, and only in the past couple months have I been like, oh, I haven't been taking my Zyrtec as much as I had before. So it's that has been hanging on for a long time. And also I think a big factor of or I mean, I don't know, but I have heard that dairy products is a contributing source of that. And in my pregnancy, I definitely I had cravings for cheese and slipped a few times. So
slipped in, face planted in some cheese.
Yeah, slipped in some cheese, which also I was talking to my acupuncturist about this, and he was like, well, that does totally sound like it's fully hormonal, because it's not as if you're like actually craving a yellow piece of like plasticky cheese. It's like you're craving the hormones right now. And I was like, that's a very interesting point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. 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 Did you find, I know we spoke at a certain point in your pregnancy and you were like finding your balance in it, but to before that, I remember you going back to work and juggling the bean protocol.
Yeah, that was really tough.
Yeah. But also really amazing, because you're like, Unique, I have all this energy that I didn't know I didn't have.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Like what was tough is that just having beans being given to me at all times was tricky. And because I work on location, and you have to bring a big cooler, and then the cooler doesn't always work, and so it's like gross. And then I was in the first trimester of my pregnancy and not really liking beans so much anymore. So yeah, but it was crazy to feel like I could just be a normal person on set for like it just I felt like I was in my 20s again. Oh, the other thing that like started happening, I don't remember in what part of the process, but pretty early on, I just had I don't think I even said to you like chronic fatigue, but I realized that I had it because I used to fall asleep in front of the TV at 7. If we were watching anything, I'd like grab a pillow, and my husband would be like, don't grab a pillow. You're gonna fall asleep. And I was like, no, I'm just resting my head. And then I every night I would just fall asleep in front of the TV, no matter how compelling the show was. And now I don't. I can, stay up until it's bedtime and not at all feel like I'm gonna pass out. And just it's incredible to me like how low my tank was every day, that I didn't even realize, like, I thought I felt the best in the morning, but I'm like, oh, I could actually feel a lot better than that. And then also not feeling totally sluggish after lunch. That happened very quickly too.
Oh, some blood sugar imbalances in there as well. I mean, it makes sense, also because various medications have various side effects as well, right? So we don't even know like how all of that was interacting. So did you wean off birth control, or go off birth control and wean off migraine meds before going on protocol? I'm trying to remember. Or did you wean off the process?
I'm pretty sure as soon as I started the protocol, I went off all the migraine stuff. So I was like, it's just me and the beans. It's possible that some of those medications were still in my system, because that's why I went off of them, because I was like hoping to try to conceive in a few months. So I was like, I got to get it all out before I do that.
And did you notice like a flare of migraines or anything, and then how were the periods off? Because I had notes about it, but share about like how were your periods, and did you notice a flare of the migraines after being off the meds?
Now that you're saying that, it was like 6 weeks after I went off the medications, that there was like a week of like a really bad, and this was when I came to you actually, was I had like, first of all, I was doing it, and then I had a really bad week of migraines that that like I would take a Trexamit, which is the pill that usually knocks them out, and it just wouldn't go away. Try it again the next day, wouldn't go away. And so like that was when I came to you, and that was like, you know, 2.5 months after starting it. And that's also probably when all the like, especially that shot that I'm at. No, I can't remember what it's called. That shot probably was fully out of my system at that point.
Yeah, I think that's the hardest part. And the reason why I'm bringing it up is because I think a lot of people think that when something's going to work, it just works. And that non-linear healing process is so, it's like riding the bull, you know, because you're like, oh, I've got the rhythm. I'm hanging on. No, I'm not. I'm off. I can't. You know? Like, it's like everything is going to shit. Because, you know, I'd say like, yeah, they are magic beans, but it's a process, and in the process you're not just healing hormonal imbalances, you're healing the cellular damage as well. And so it's just, and healing gut, right? So much of our hormonal imbalances and just overall health, and speaking to the acid reflux, like, is gut health. Like, gut health is this incredible key factor to your entire health story. So what I love about the Beam protocol is that it doesn't work fast necessarily, but it works consistently to rebalance all of these really important aspects of our health: gut health, hormonal health, you know, better bowel movements. Constipation is a really common side effect of hormone imbalance.
Yeah, and what I really love about what you and Karen talk about is that it is a process, and no one really prepares you. Like, when I would try other things, I never felt like, okay, I'm gonna stick with it then, and then I might have bounce back or whatever. Like, I was prepared mentally for that to happen, and the real knew what was realistic in my expectations, and that everyone is different, and it might take longer than for some people than it does for others. So that was so helpful to be able to hold on to and be like, okay, I know that it's not, doesn't mean it's not necessarily working, although I did still have doubts. And I would also, you know, try to like, I'd be like, oh, I haven't had a migraine in a month. I'm going to go on a hike today. I haven't been able to go on a hike in years without immediately getting a migraine. I'm going to bring beans. And I went on that hike and I got a migraine. And so I was like, okay, I haven't gotten there totally yet, but you know, now I can, as long as I'm hydrated and have had enough sleep.
Yay! I do remember there was 2 hikes in there somewhere, I feel like.
Yeah.
And it was like testing. But you know, the win that I really celebrated for you was that you were at a place that you felt like you could go hiking. Because that in itself is a win, right? Mm-hmm. So, and I feel like there has to be a testing out process. Like, is my body going to handle that adrenaline, that heat, these combination of hormonal reactions that are happening while I go for a hike, right? Something that you hadn't been able to do for years. Like, the only way to know is to test it. And the fact that you can hike now is amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Sounds like such a small thing, but it's not.
I mean, I know. And also, like, now that I think about it, just literally going outside when it's bright out. I'm like, I haven't even been, like, I would do it and I would get a migraine, but I don't even think about it anymore. It's crazy how it's all that, you know, it really controlled my life. And now there are things I've forgotten were really, like, you know, making my life not so joyful.
Yeah. Well, I'm really happy that you, A, found it, B, stuck with it, C, allowed me to support your journey, because I get so much fulfillment out of, and I know that place so well, where you're in it and you're going, I think this is working, but kind of not, but it kind of is, and it's kind of crazy, and there's nobody I can talk about it because nobody's doing this crazy thing. And I think doubt a really common part of the process. And if we don't have somebody else going, no, no, you totally got this, I think it's really easy to wander off, especially when the medical world doesn't really support diet in a lot of ways to support your health imbalances. It's almost like there's this great disconnect that our body can't be healed by the very foods that sustain it. And that the only thing that can help is this Band-Aid that's going to kind of intervene in it in some way, but it doesn't really get to the core reason of why it's happening. And I felt that way too. I was looking for other people with autoimmune who are healing on beans, and guess what? I found zero.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, good for you for sticking with it, because that's I truly, like, there was that one testimonial that you did with the woman talking about migraines, and I was like, okay, if she can do it, so can I. And I also really feel that about with doctors, like, especially when I like was seeing results on it, I was telling all the doctors that I encountered, like, I like, you know, cured myself with beans, and I just, you know, saw them just glaze over, and I was just like, no, do you hear me? Like, you have to prescribe this. Like, it's not just migraines, it's this, and this, and no one has ever said that there was any hope about migraines before. And shouldn't your mind be blown by the fact that I've been like healing myself? And I just remember someone saying, well, I'm really glad that's working for you. And I was like, no, it works for everyone. Or like, not everyone, you know, I don't want to whatever, but like, it works for thousands of people. So
it's a viable option, and anything that's a viable option should be part of the conversation, because if the goal is without ego is to help people, then without ego, it's to say, hey, I don't know much about this thing, but you might want to check it out. Yeah. I've had someone really rave about it. You know, to me, like, as someone who does this day in and day out, and I see how much suffering is in the world, and a lot of it's so needless because of the diet and lifestyle choices, right? And I think that, which is why I never go like, oh, it's just one protocol fits all, because I know I spend so much of my time tweaking protocols and retrofitting them, and, you know, listening to the person in front of me and going, okay, let's try this. And, you know, there is that trial and error sometimes, but to not offer it as a viable option, to say, hey, this is a possibility, even if I don't know much about it. I do that all the time. You know, I'm like, hey, this is a possibility. Or this is like, I want people, I mean, I have the benefit of a lot of people trying 99% of everything before they find me. So it's kind of like, for me, it was the last, you know, it was the last stop. And there's actually something really amazing about knowing you're the last stop. It's like, well, I've tried everything else. Now I'm going to try this crazy thing called the Being Protocol. And you're like, yes, because I know you're going to feel better. I know you're going to feel better. In some capacity, you're going to feel better. You're going to have wins. And those wins kind of over time, as we take care of our body, we create more and more wins. Like, what I have found over the 9.5 years I've been on it is that the benefits keep getting better. Like, they don't get worse. They keep getting better as my cellular body heals and get better, as I stay off medications personally. And, you know, and I definitely don't demonize them. And I want to take this moment to say that, because I think they're incredibly life-saving, but not needing them, I feel like, is an incredible win. You know? Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, if there are any doctors watching, you know, like, I would say, please at least like put it as an option, like you're talking about. Yeah.
If a doctor had said to you, hey, there is this thing called the Bean Protocol, because you had Lacey in your face going, Bean Protocol, Bean Protocol, and you were like, dude, I'm too busy with this idea, this crazy, like, do you feel like that there are stages in your life that you are open to it? Because I feel like in my 20s, I don't think I would have been open to it even.
Oh, I totally, like, I 100% agree. It depends on where I would be in the stage of my life, and who the doctor was, and how they were presenting it to me. If they were, you know, if I authentically really believed them, you know, I'd be like, great. But I do think about how hard it would. I didn't have the option in my 20s, but I don't, you know, I think I probably wanted to stay up late and party, and I'm glad that I did that, you know. I had a good time in my 20s. But paid for it. And, you know, I think that if I had been presented with this, I would really need exactly what I had when it was presented, which was like testimony, like all the people who have seen great results from it, talking about it, and understanding, you know, the soluble fiber of it all. Whereas like every other diet, it was just like, I don't know what I'm doing really. I'm just hoping that this helps.
Yeah. Yeah, but exactly. It is an interesting thing when we're open to something, because it sounds like you didn't necessarily go into it for the migraines, you went into for it for the hormonal healing. Would that be an accurate assumption?
You know, I went into it for, yes, the hormonal, that was the first part. And then I was like, oh, maybe it'll help. Like, and on Karen's site, there isn't a class that's specifically for migraines. And I like emailed her and I was like, will it help with my migraines? And she just said yes, in like a way that I was like, but really, you know, you know, like, cause like that, it was like, I went into it for the hormonal stuff, but the migraines were what was a consistent, like everyday thing that was like ruining my life. So that was what made me feel like that was what helped. That was what I could track the best, because it was the most painful part of it. And then the PCOS, I was just covering up with my birth control pills anyway. So I knew that I had to get off my birth control pills if I was going to conceive. So I was like, oh God, a whole world of pain is about to come towards me, and migraines, and like how I'm not going to be able to take, if I'm lucky enough to get pregnant, like I'm not going to be able to take any medication whatsoever for any of it. So the idea of having 3 migraines a week while pregnant was like really not exciting.
Yeah,
So
like,
I mean,
how do you live
I was definitely in the right place in my life to come to the pain protocol, because I was like, for a million different reasons.
I do, in my book, it's why I call it the desperation diet, because I feel like there's a certain sense of, I've got nowhere to go, I shall try the beans.
Yes.
And, you know, at the time, Karen didn't have the courses. Like, I've taken all her courses many, many times at this point. And I had the incredible benefit of working with her for years when she was still actively practicing, and just kind of firsthand being on the other side of amazing stories. And I just realized, like, look, will I ever say that this is for everyone? No. But is eating well the best shot you have for great health, not just for today, but for, you know, who I like to call my older me, my avatar, my older me avatar. Like, I don't live just for today, I live for the older me avatar of like, who is this? Who is me at 90? Who is me at 80? Oh, I'm fit, I'm groovy, I'm not on meds, and I'm riding a bike into the grave. Okay, so if I take care of myself today, then I get to be hopefully that groovy avatar later.
Yeah, I have a similar like feeling of like 10 years from now, I'm gonna look great and everyone else is gonna look like shit. Not in a like I want them to look like shit way, but like just having a feeling of like, oh, I'm so committed to this, and I just can't wait to prove everyone right. You know, like that sort of like feeling of I'm just gonna feel as good as one can feel at every age that I am.
How did pregnancy go? Because I know the hardest for my clients, once they get pregnant, the hardest thing to do is to maintain protocol through pregnancy, which is more like a longevity plan anyway. Like, I have most of my clients, I'm like, have some berries, have some, like, you know, like, be more of a plan that's sustainable, which I find, you know, longevity plan to be the most sustainable, because you're bringing back in some teas, and you're bringing back in some berries, and you're bringing back in some dairy, and you're, you know, you're playing with things that, for if they're beneficial to you, they come back in, right? Because I do think that there's a lot of individuality in it. So how did you find pregnancy? And
so the first semester, I just was like, it's really hard to get the beans down. And I was doing, you gave me the advice, you're like, you could do whatever you can to get the beans, like you can have it with oil. And I was like, oh, thank you, because that was the hardest part of the protocol for me. Like now I put oil in my beans as a like, now that I feel that I'm pretty much healed. But I was still at that point, like not ready to do that, but you're like, just any way you can get the beans in, do it. And separating beans from oil was like the hardest part of it for me. And then, so I was then, okay, I can stomach the beans with some saltines and like, you know, a nice oil and onion chickpea thing, you know. So I did that, and then that it was like hard to get protein and everything. That first trimester, it was like pretty much cereal and beans on saltines, and I like gave myself a like that it's okay that I'm doing that. Second trimester, I was able to get back into like a regular bean protocol world. And then third trimester, I was like, I got really hungry. And so I was eating all the beans, but I was also eating a lot of like cereal and processed foods. And I have to say that the 12 days leading up to my birth, I had the worst migraine of my life, which was like, okay, well, obviously this is hormonal related. And I was like doing beans every 20 minutes for 12 days, and the beans just could not save me. And only once I like literally as I labored with the migraine, and then when I gave birth, it went away. And I haven't had a
hormone. Yeah, major hormone surge. I remember when you texted me and you're like unique, and I was like,
yeah, it's like not much that can be done. And then it just like my neurologist, like everyone was just like, I just think you have to have that baby. And then it'll go away. And it did. And I haven't had a migraine since, but
knock on wood.
Knock on wood, yeah.
Knock on wood. And how's protocol going today? Still doing longevity plan, just living your life, enjoying yourself?
Yeah, longevity. I'm also like to help lose the baby weight. I am not eating starches now, so it's just beans, protein, and veggies.
And fats?
And fats, yes.
Cool.
Lots of nuts.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm having the beans with fat.
Perfect.
And I do beans like 2 to 3 times a day. If I have a meal that doesn't have beans, I have psyllium husk. And also psyllium husk got me through a lot of pregnancy stuff too, because I was just like, ugh. And
yeah,
I was on set too, so it was like really hard to get. If I could get a good bean dish, it was not going to happen on set. So like psyllium husk got me through a lot of it.
Were you ever able to get Crafty to put any beans in the Crafty area?
Yeah, there wasn't, it's COVID, so there isn't like a Crafty area that you can go up to, but I did have them making me beans, but they just weren't very good. and I also was, you know, it was a combination of them not being good and me being repulsed by them at the time. Which it's just so funny how it like, because they were like in second trimester, like it'll be better, and I was like, I don't know if I'm ever gonna like beans again. And then it was like second trimester, I was like, oh, I'm back to eating like normally now.
Well, I also think once you got to the point that you could eat beans in a normal meal, you can make like a lentil soup, you can make a salad and throw beans into the salad to get that extra fiber. You have so much more like room to play and make them tasty. And you know, one of my favorite ways, even lower fat, I was making curries a lot, like lentil curries and chickpea curries, and just ways to make them tasty so that and now it's funny because I've made a full circle of like, I need them to be tasty. Now I'm like, I just eat them in my whatever I'm eating. Right. I don't even care. Just throw them in. So the stage that you're at is, to me, the best one, because you've gone through the hard part of healing your body and shifting hormones, and now you just get to enjoy a whole foods, high fiber diet. And your body, especially with nursing, I think I was reading a stat somewhere that you burn something like a marathon's worth of calories every 2 days. So just getting rid of those starches and any processed foods that had snuck in, your body slowly begins to like, you know,
Yeah. I also will say that my night nurse has been like, your milk is so rich, and I'm like, yes, well, I have a good diet going for me. So.
It's like cream.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Breast milk is so amazing. I didn't know when I was a mom nursing how amazing breast milk was. And recently I did a podcast with Ara from Seed, and she was talking about the complexity of breast milk and how there's indigestible parts in there that are just to feed the baby's microbiome. Like,
wow,
how amazing is that?
Yeah.
Like, it's so amazing.
Yeah.
And that every stage of life, your milk changes to suit their needs.
Right. It's so crazy.
Like, women, are we not amazing? Stop it.
I know.
Nature. Well, I'm glad you're feeling.
I was just gonna say, I was just watching literally an episode of Seinfeld, and there was like a fake baby who was breastfeeding, and I felt let down, and I was like, that's so weird. Like, the body is like reacting to this fake thing that I'm watching right now.
Oh yeah, or other people's babies. Like, you're out,
yeah,
and other people's babies, and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
Or baby sleeps too long, and your body's like, this is a normal feeding time, and you're like, oh.
Yeah. Did you cut your hair?
No,
it's just back.
Yeah,
okay.
I've been thinking about it though. I've been what is it? Threatening to cut it all off.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I think I must be going through like a change of some sort, because I keep getting this like desire to cut it off. And it's funny because half the people that I say it to are like, it's gonna pass, don't cut your hair off. And then the other half is like, take it all off. Like, my daughters are like, take it all off. And I'm like, maybe. I think it's like, I'm in the interesting part of life where perimenopause is real. And I wonder if that's part of it, where I'm just like, hair is too complicated,
Right. Yeah. And if it'll grow back, it'll grow back.
Right. I could do it. I could chop myself a cute little bob, which is what I've been thinking about. And if I hate it, it'll grow back. But yeah, no cut. Oh, it's so funny. See, somebody's like, it'll definitely pass. Let it pass you, Nick. The crazy will pass you. Maybe not. It's become an obsession. Now I follow all of these hairdressers who are like transforming women who are like done with their long hair into like these cute little shortcuts. And yeah, so it's a problem. But anyway, yeah, no, not yet. Long story short. But well, you're amazing. And when you said you would do this live today, I was just so excited, because it's brave to do lives and to share your personal journey with other people. But to me, it's the most powerful, because not everybody's gonna resonate with my journey, because it's Crohn's and endo, and Crohn's is not something that people talk about very often. And most people don't talk about their personal lives. Like, I don't know how open you've been in your life about migraines and acid reflux and constipation and PCOS, but to me, in my generation, we don't talk about that stuff. It's just not talked about, and I feel like especially in such a fringe protocol, having people willing to come forward and saying, yeah, it's crazy and it works, is kind of amazing. So you're kind of amazing, and you're a badass. Like, sitting on set, kicking ass and eating beans.
Yeah, I mean, I will talk to anyone who's willing to listen about beans. And yeah, like, I find that doing just that it helped me so much, and it still helps me. I still like return to your Instagram every day to watch your stories, just to have the consistency of help, and like with a reminder, and like, oh, that's so wise. Oh, the thing that, I mean, I've told you this before, but that really like struck such a chord with me was when you say love foods that love you back, because that applied to me in terms of like relationships in my life, where it's like, oh no, I have to switch. I have to make a full mental and emotional commitment to leave what doesn't work behind. And I did that with relationships, and now I need to do that with aspect. I'm like, I'm wondering what other part I'm, you know, I can work on that applies to. And so anytime that someone says something that you or anyone on these testimonials say something that really like resonate, it really helps me continue to do it. And I was really hoping that I could do that for someone else, you know, because it just truly has completely changed my life in the most positive way, that I'm so like willing. I want everyone to be able to change if they are suffering from migraines or anything. And with the PCOS, I also was so afraid to go off of the birth control. You know, like I never wanted to. And when the times that I had in the past, like everything came back right away. And so it was just like, I don't want to have bad skin. I don't want to have painful periods and not know when I'm getting my period. And also I thought that I was going to have such a hard time conceiving because of my PCOS, and I never knew when I was going to get my period. But I got pregnant immediately. And I really think that's because of the beans and knowing that I was in the best shape possible for that to happen. And it's just so funny, all of those years, like leading up to it, me being like, oh, it's going to be really hard for me to get pregnant. I know it. And like really telling myself that, and then being able to find this and be like, maybe it won't be so hard. And then it was not hard at all. And I know that that's also a privilege that doesn't come necessarily just with diet. So I want to, you know, acknowledge that. But that, yeah, it's in so many ways that this diet has improved my life, is, you know, it fills me with joy. It sparks joy.
Well, your health sparks joy in me. Anytime someone I work with is thriving and continuing to do the bean protocol, because I do think, you know, that, I mean, I think the longevity plan is a lot easier to do, but what you're talking about, you know, loving the foods who love you back, it's almost taking an identity shift, right, of who you used to be. It's like, who I used to be is eat for comfort or eat for whatever my mouth wants, and who I become now is somebody who's thinking about my entire body, and not just, you know, I call it the mouth party. Mouth party is like 5 seconds, and then downstream from the mouth party, the body's like, what is this garbage floating in the river? Like, there is nothing for me to take out of this to use for cellular health, for gut health, for hormonal health. There's really just nothing here for me. Thanks a lot for nothing. So it's like shifting that entire identity away from who I used to be as eat for comfort, eat for mouth party, and who I am now is eat for health and wellness, and maintaining that too. Because the thing I see a lot is it's really the ones who make it to wellness and balance then almost don't know what to do and revert back like to older habits.
Yeah.
And then older.
Also, yeah. Oh, all I was going to say is that I thought that I was eating healthfully, you know, like it wasn't like I was having a piece of cake after every meal, or even, you know, I thought that I didn't eat that much sugar. And I hear that all the time too. Like people being like, you know, I don't eat that much sugar. And I'm like, yeah, you do. You know, like it's just that it's so much more like, you don't realize how much you're eating. Like it's just until you know, are really, really committing to not eating it at all. And just the way society is structured is to make you feel that like it's okay, and it is, you know, whatever. But like it's okay to have a little piece of candy here and there, but for some people it's not, and for me it's not. And so it's just, I mean, like Halloween, that's crazy that we just sugar. Like it's so insane. And associated, you know, with joy and celebration and community, and it's all tied to everything. And if, you know, those are the times that are hard for people because you want to be part of the fun, and and you know, there's nothing wrong with that, but then if it's not working for you, then you know, you really have to grieve those losses, because it's tough. But yeah.
Yeah, and what I found is connect differently, like learning how,
Yeah.
because these communal things set up for us to connect, and it's I had to retrain myself to connect differently. Like when I decided I didn't want to drink anymore,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I was like, okay, so how do I connect as my authentic self, my real self, without the alcohol?
Mm-hmm.
And I know you cut out alcohol at a certain point because you realized it was a trigger for your imbalances.
Yeah,
But
I was like not drinking alcohol before I started being pro alcohol, because it was like immediate migraine. So it was like, well, I'm not doing that anyway, so that's not hard. But sorry, go on.
no, well, you began to not love the things that weren't loving you back, right? You were
Right.
already starting that process where your body was saying no, and you were starting to listen, which is powerful because most people's body says no, say no, and it's almost like, well, no, I'm not going to listen to you.
Yeah.
I like alcohol, or I like cheese, or whatever the triggering food is, you know?
Yeah, that's actually reminding me too that I um really like didn't even notice that after every time after I exercised I would get a migraine, like, or I did notice it, but I ignored it because it's like, oh well, in the long term I'm sure that's not causing it, even though it was such an immediate obvious cause. Like I could not do a burpee without getting a migraine, and I just didn't it was never told I was never told from any health person that it's okay to not do that if it's triggering a migraine. You know, it's like, well, you got to be healthy, you know. And like anytime that if I'm explaining the protocol to someone, I'm like, oh, and no exercise, there's a real like, oh, I don't know, maybe this is not right. And I'm like, I sometimes leave that part out because I don't want, it's just so, you know, ingrained it. I like, it's so crazy to me to think that I would work out and get a migraine and not put two and two together, because I was told over and over again that exercise is really good for you. And in certain capacities it is, but not if I'm getting migraine every time.
Well, I think it's like when working out comes in the healing process, right? So when I was healing, I didn't work out. I walked a little bit. If I had energy, I walked a little bit. I stretched, did like yin yoga. But then once I went into remission, my hormones were balanced, my periods were good. Then I was like, oh, I'll try weight training. I'll slowly begin to branch out, all the while kind of checking in with my body of like, is this good? Are we good? And as my body was good, I built on that. So I think it's like working out is good. I know Karen doesn't really believe in, you know, kind of like that, like scheduled workout. It's more like, you know, live your best life and build those muscles. But most of us, our best life is in our fingers, as at our keyboard, you know. So it's
Right.
like you're really not working that much. So it's kind of like you need to do something to maintain muscle so that as you get older, where muscle is harder to build, that you have a strong structure for strong bones, right? And eating well, of course. So to me, it's like heal the hormonal imbalance, heal the stuff that's going on, and then begin to build a practice, like a workout practice that looks good for your body, whatever that is, because maybe burpees isn't your body's cup of tea. But if you begin to look at life of like, I love things that love me back, you know, like the foods, the exercise routine, maybe new you exercise routine is Pilates or weight training or whatever it is that makes you feel like strong and good, but supported, not like at a detriment to yourself.
Yeah, and I'm having this similar experience of that, as I haven't been able to work out for so long because then I was pregnant, and then like, so I was doing yoga, and then like recently I finally was able, like, I was like, getting back on the Soul Cycle bike, which I love Soul Cycle, and I love to go hard in Soul Cycle, but I'm like, I cannot go hard. Like, it you know, hurts my ego to be like, oh, I'm sitting this one down, but I can feel that this might trigger something, and just being able to recognize and not ignore the signs anymore. And it's funny because I also just used to, like, I literally would like sit and meditate and be like, please, migraines, tell me what is it you need from me, you know, and like not knowing and not hearing the right answer. And now just having, being more in tune with like, how is this, it's like, can I step outside right today? Like, oh, actually it's too bright. I'm going to go inside and try not to trigger this. And, yeah.
Do you still feel like it can be triggered, or do you feel like you have the capacity to go outside, whether it's bright or not? Or do you still feel like there's a connection there?
The only going outside, I haven't had a problem with, unless I'm super dehydrated or stressed. But the times that I now and have noticed migraines, which hasn't been in a while, but if I haven't gotten enough sleep or am really stressed out, that combination will also, spark a migraine. Going outside, not so much. August has always been a really bad month for me for migraines, so I'm very curious to see what will happen this August, having been on it now almost 2 years once August hits. Because I don't know what it is about August that, like, I mean, is it where the light is in the sky, or is it some allergen that's happening? I don't know.
I was wondering really about the allergy component, like if there's an allergy component in August for you.
Yeah.
You mentioned SoulCycle. One of my goals when I got healthy was to do Angela's class. Do you remember Angela, who used to teach in Brentwood? Did you ever?
I never went to Brentwood, but
did you hear her like Angela, who was like, it was like,
no.
to go to her class was like the Mecca. And
That's so funny.
Good. Who's the, it's Beckham, and Beckham used to go in her class.
My first SoulCycle class, now I'm just telling you a story, but my first SoulCycle class was next to David Beckham, and actually my first SoulCycle class in LA was next to David Beckham, and I was literally next to David Beckham. And I was like, this is so, like, I was like, I have to bike well to like impress him. And Victoria was also, she was in the front row, and me and David were in the back. Anyway, sorry, go on.
Oh, no, that's really funny, because I got in her class and I was right behind David Beckham.
Oh my God. Yeah. Which is better? I don't know.
Way better. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Don't want to be in front, but definitely in back.
Yeah.
And I just remember, like, I was like, okay, you're going, and I'm a person that likes to go 100% too in my life, right? Yeah. So I went in there and I was like, you're going to go 80%. You're going 80%. So it's perfect that you're in the third row. Like, I picked the third row when I was picking my bike, and had no idea that, or maybe it was second row, because I think Beckham was always first row. So it just was something that wasn't in the line of fire, Yeah. And I just remember going, I was really proud of myself because I was going 80%. I was getting a sweat, but I wasn't like, pushing myself to that place of no longer listening to my body. Because there's a point, I feel like, in the adrenaline conversation where I hear my body, and then it's almost like the mind takes over, and it's about ego, and it's like, go, go, go. And my body was like, So it was like, I started going to SoulCycle and listening to my body and actually pulling back to the place that I actually felt good, instead of pushing to that next level. And the teachers are amazing. A lot of my clients do Peloton and stuff like that. And I'm always like, their job is to push you. Your job is to listen to yourself. That's your job. Your job is to listen and like, is this good for me? Does this feel good? And, obviously for you, I hope the gauge is never again a migraine being the gauge of what's important, but to slowly push it out, so you have time to hear your body in the process of like, oh yeah, is this good? Does this not feel good just to the ego, but feel good physically? Yeah.
Yeah. And SoulCycle for me is a hard place to do that, because you kind of want to be like, I'm with everyone, and then to be sitting down and you just want to be like, I could do it if I want, but I'm actually being really good to myself right now.
You're like, I'm loving myself. By the way, Sarah, I hear your baby. Are you good? Like,
I am good. She's with her. Thank you. Thank you. I do need to go soon, but she's with her grandma right now, so she's okay.
I hear her, and the mommy in me is like, I hear her.
Yeah.
But I think, is there anything else you want to share? Because I think you've been incredibly generous with your time and shared so much. And I just appreciate you so much.
Yeah. I mean, I think I shared the things that I wanted to share. The other things I wanted to share was just like what was hardest for me, which was the separating the oils and the you know, the doubt. I already talked about that, but fragrances was like really, really tough to let go, because it's just, those are the things that make you feel like you're, you know, doing self-help, you know, like having a nice incense uh and then like you know, talking to people about it and having them not think that you're crazy. But yeah.
Yeah, that's I thought long and hard about it as I started to coach, and I was like, what's the easiest way to talk about the bean protocol? And I came up with, it's a whole foods diet with a focus on fiber.
Yeah.
And the rest you can find out for yourself. But I would say my clients are more verbal about it than I am. I'm still, to this day, I'll hang out with friends who I'll look at them and I'll be like, yeah, you could use it. But I feel like it's a journey. Like, for example, you listened to Lacey talk about it again and, you know, for a long time, because she was passionately seeing results and passionately sharing, like Lacey does, and she's amazing. But you're only ready when you're ready, right?
Yes.
Like that moment when you were ready, you were like, oh, I'm ready.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a good, I'm trying to be more like that rather than pushing beans on people. Because like everything is, people are only going to change when they're ready to change, and you can't force that on anyone.
And healthy, building a muscle, a different health muscle. Like I acknowledge that you felt like you were healthy before, right? And so to then take a dive into another protocol and go, oh wait, I had all of these hidden sugars or all of this stuff and it wasn't as healthy as I thought it was. Building the muscle of healthy, but then after that is the bigger job. Like I feel like it's easy to get started. It's way harder to stay with it. Mm-hmm. You know, especially as life throws you curveballs and life throws you these holidays that are like, I jokingly call, you know, it's like sugar, booze, holiday, right? Which is sugar as well. So we have all of these holidays that are not built around celebrating health, but just celebrating, you know? So it's like you're navigating all of these, kind of all of these times in life where you're so used to saying yes to the cake and yes to the sugar and it's my birthday and it's my anniversary. And it's like, you know, so health is this crazy muscle that you're building consistency with. And it's not easy in a world that finds the greatest joy through these foods that are not necessarily health supportive.
Yeah. And again, which is why it's so helpful for me to watch you every day. Like it just putting that in my head every day. And I even like watch Karen's courses over and over again, just to like, you know, get it really ingrained in my cells. Cause it's like everywhere else, it's the opposite. So you need to balance it.
Oh yeah. Like the social world of health is balance, and balance doesn't, this idea of balance doesn't really work for an unwell person. I don't ever say sick. I think of it as imbalanced. Like we're imbalanced. And if every 7 years we get a new cellular body, what do you want that new cellular body to be made of? Yeah. You know? So to me, it's like the least amount of stress, oxidative stress, a ton of nutrients. Like I know every 7 years, my goal is to have a healthier body than the last time, you know, last time. So it's like, I just have all sorts of internal visuals and like who I want to be and how I want to be. And so I'll sit with other people doing what they want to do. And I'm like, cool, good for you. Like I don't feel I need to commune anymore with food. Like food is my thing, you know?
Yeah.
So if I'm out and about, I'll eat beans before I go out and then I'll make really healthy choices. I don't really stress about it. And you're at the point in the protocol where you don't really have to stress about it that much either. And you're allowed to, you know, share it as much as you want or not as much as you want, because you, like, I feel like you know what you're taking care of and why you're taking care of yourself.
Yeah. I do have to go. It's my baby.
Yeah.
My baby seems to be suffering. But this was so great.
Thank you. Have a wonderful Sunday and enjoy that beautiful baby.
Yes, I will.
Okay. All right.
Bye.